And sorry, yeah, currently I'm the head of accessibility and digital inclusion at Axessall, which is a British Egyptian company focusing on digital accessibility, only digital accessibility. I'm a country representative for Egypt with G3 ICT, Smart Cities for All, 2021 and 2022. I'm a research expert with MEDA. MEDA is a really well known organization in the accessibility field based in Qatar. I used to work as a usability and accessibility SME at Apple, and I used to work as an usability and accessibility senior consultant at AbilityNet, and an experience design lead at IBM. So that's a little bit about myself, just to, for you just to know who you're talking to. So that's just me. And this is my LinkedIn profile. We will share the slides with you after the meeting. Well, a quick housekeeping. So this session will be delivered in, we thought to just give to you the preference, but we discovered later that it should be in English. So yeah, it will be in English. We will have your questions at the end of this session. So the final 15 minutes will be QA time, but it's up to you, honestly, because you can stop us anytime during the session, and we will answer your questions. The slides will be shared with you right after the session, so yeah, don't worry about it. Really quickly, what we were covering during this workshop, the whole workshop, the 3 episodes, is digital accessibility and barriers, the business case for digital accessibility, web content accessibility guidelines, and how to build accessible products. Then it will be just general ideas and questions about accessibility and disabilities. So this is the content for the whole series of workshops. So today, I think today, Dr. Zainab, we will cover only the first part, right? So it will be just digital accessibility and barriers. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to go over that and then probably just give them an overview of what it is we're going to see in the next 2 sessions. Some of the things, like touch some points, just so that if they're interested, we'll see them back, hopefully.
Yep, sure, brilliant, thank you. So I think we can get started, right? Okay, welcome everyone. So again, so we will talk today about accessibility and barriers, and just to put everything in place, accessibility is not for the disabled, it's for everyone. So when we talk about accessibility, I know that most of the people just think about someone on wheelchair, or someone just a blind one, or a deaf one. But honestly, it's not about the disabled. It's about everyone, because everyone will benefit from the disability, from the accessibility, regardless of their abilities. So now, yeah, we build something for everyone, not just for people with disabilities. That will take us to just make a new concept, is about being disabled doesn't necessarily mean that you're having an impairment. So impairments, or biological impairments, is about just someone is blind, someone is deaf, someone has low vision, someone has color blindness, or any other kind of disability. But it's called disability, but this is not what makes people disabled. People become disabled because their environments, not their biological disability. So disability happens when barriers exist between people and their environment, not when people has biological impairments or so. So this is one concept that we need just to talk about, that it's not what you have of disability. It's about what the environment just offering you or not offering you because of your ability. So this is one thing. The other thing is disability or impairments is not always permanent. So that's why accessibility is really important, because it's not about just covering or just care about people with permanent disabilities. No, it's accessibility is about everyone, because as we will see now in this example, that all of us will be disabled at some point in our life, or as Greg said, we will all have disability eventually, unless we die first. So we will definitely at some point in our lives will have disabilities. So when we talk about accessibility, again, it's not about just permanently disabled people, it's about everyone. Because, for example, when we talk about hearing disability can be permanent. So deaf people have a permanent hearing disability, but someone with ear infection will have the same disability or the same suffering that the deaf people suffer from. Temporary, yes. For some time, yes. But it will happen. Again, it could be situational. So if you're in a loud room or in a nightclub or wherever you are, it is really loud. You will not be able to hear the surroundings normally unless you go out. So it could be based on the situation. The same applies for all kinds of disabilities, like, for example, the visual disability. When people blind, they cannot see. There is no light travels to their brain just to imagine or just draw a picture. But actually, when someone has lost glasses, like myself, when I lose my glasses, I suffer the same as blind people suffer. So it's really hard for me. Yes, it's temporary until I find my glasses, or someone finds it for me. But actually, it happens. The same with sun glare. When you go outside and there is no contrast in whatever on your mobile phone or whatever video you are watching, and when there is so much sun, you will not be able to see. So this is really situational and really short. But if the product or the video or whatever you're watching is accessible, you will be able just to see it or perceive the information it has really easily and really normally. The same applies for motor disability. Some people with tremors or people who cannot just use their hands normally will suffer permanently from this. So, for example, they will not be able to use the mouse. Just one example. And the same other person with arm injury or a broken arm or something, they will not be able temporarily to use the mouse as well. So the same disability will apply for both people, and the same barrier will apply for both people. And also, during you or while you're working, there is a limitation in your motor abilities. So it will affect your ability to use your hand, use your legs. Yes, in this situation, but it will affect you. Cognitive disability is something like dyslexia or dyscalculia, something with perceiving the information or reading the information, or something to do with the numbers. People with anxiety will suffer from the same disability or the same impact as people with permanent disability, unless this anxiety ends. People with just child crying or have a child crying near them, like my daughter, for example, when she starts screaming, I will not be able to focus. I will not be able to see two words in a row. So this is one of the disabilities that I suffer from really usually. But it's not about me. It's about the surroundings. So I am disabled at some point of my day, the same as you, the same as everyone. But if you haven't suffered of any of these, you will not, get to this yet, but everyone will. So it's not about what you was born with. It's about what the surroundings offering you. So this is about, permanent and temporary situational disabilities. So it was really quickly just to demonstrate how big it is, and how important it is, accessibility, because it's not about just what we're suffering from birth. So if anyone has any question, please stop me. No? All right. Okay, now we talked about permanent, temporary, and situational disabilities. It's time to talk about some facts about permanent impairments. Like, now we know that accessibility affects everyone, but what about people that we thought about that accessibility is only for, like people with permanent impairments or biological impairments? Now we need to know some facts about them, because if we only think that, okay, so far, thank you, thanks, Haida. If we think about, that these people are not as many, we need to reconsider. So, for example, 15.4% of our population have some form of permanent impairment. So this is a huge number. This makes people with disability the largest minority worldwide. So it's really important that that we know that when we have a product that is not accessible, that we're losing initially 15% of our potential clients. Next point is, in every country there is between 12 to 15 of people with some form of disability. This is the average. This is in every and each country. 4% of the world's population have low vision. So yeah, I'm one of them. Whereas 0.6% are blind. So this is the number of people who are completely blind, that they cannot see anything. 8 to 12 of men have some form of color deficiency or blindness. So it's about 10%, the average is 10% of men worldwide, they cannot see color effectively, while 1% of women, it's not for me to say anything about it, but it's 1% of women has the same deficiency, but 10% of men have it. Low vision condition increase with age. It's not just low vision. So all forms of disabilities increase by age. So people, elders have so many kind of disabilities that, formed by age. Like, for example, 50% of people over the age of 50 have some degree of low vision. And this is one thing. All of our parents, grandparents have this. You will never find someone over 60 or 55 without with a mobile, without having the text size increased to the largest, for example. So this is really important to think about, because the number of people over 50 are increasing, and by 2030 they will outnumber the newborn children. So it's really important to think about, because of the evolution, the medical evolution. People live more, and it will increase by time, and everyone will have long and a healthy life at some point, and they will need more assistance and more help, just to make sure that our solutions or our digital products are available for them. And there are some facts on persons with disabilities by the United Nations, so many numbers here. So all of you, just please go there and just have another look and know more about disabilities and the number of people with permanent disabilities. All right, so any question?
We can just, if you have questions and you want to type them, you're welcome to do that too.
Yes, please.
Just to let you know.
Great. All right, so now it's time for our first poll. So we have two pictures. And our question is, who is disabled here? Top image, bottom image, both of them, or neither of them. So please use the poll and the Zoom just to provide the answers.
I hope everybody can see the poll, and it's a matter of just answering one of the questions so that we get a background idea of what you think. We don't see your name, so we will not know who's answering what. Yeah. At the moment, I have 4 answers from 4 attendees. We'd like a few more, please. Most of them are, or the highest is 5 out of 6 who say both of them. Up to now, I'll end the poll shortly. You have like 30 seconds, let's say, until I end, so I can let you all see the answers. Right, no more answers. So there you go.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, it's really, you know, yeah, as we talked about, it's not about you having a permanent disability or a permanent impairment. It's about the environment. So when it comes to the first image, honestly, this one has a ramp to just use his wheelchair just to move around and, you know, go up. But the other one has nothing to do but the stairs. So it's really the second one is really suffering, is doing something that is not normal, while the first one is using whatever the tools that they have and whatever the tools that the environment provide, which is the ramp, just to go and to use whatever they have just to go up. So from my perspective, it is really you know, a respective answer, but from my perspective, it's the bottom image. This one is the disabled one, not the first one, because the first one has a tool just to overcome his permanent impairment, has a tool from the environment to use this tool on it, and, you know, there's no suffering here. But the second one has a bit of suffering, which is riding up going up the stairs. It's really, you know, not great. So thanks everyone for the answers, but, you know, we think about it, we need to think about it again when we talk about, and we need to concentrate when we talk about disabilities, that it's not the impairment that people have or the ability they have, it's about the surrounding environment. So this is really important, and, you know, that will take us to the will take us to the next poll, which is a really direct question, and it's multiple choices. Again, you can use the poll in Zoom, or you can provide answers in the chat. So our question is, which of these accessible solutions have you used before? So it's ramp, dropped curbs, subtitles or captions, browser zoom, keyboard navigation, screen reader, none of the above. And if you have any question, or if you don't understand what this tool is, please ask us. So if anyone has any question regarding this, please ask us, and if not, please just provide the answer.
Okay, we have a few answers. I'm just going to give you a couple more seconds till I end. If anyone else is trying to add, then please submit as soon as you can. Right, looks like we're at a halt. There you go.
Okay, brilliant. So most of us just use subtitles or captions. May I ask a question? How many people here are deaf? So I didn't got any answer. I select most of the options. So Haider, you selected most of the options. Could you please just provide us with an information whether you have any permanent disabilities that we talked about? You don't. So you don't have any permanent disabilities. However, you used most of these accessible tools. I just used this for different situations. That's right. That's right. Yeah. Pushing up a pram. Yeah, that's rammed. And dropped curbs as well. So I can't raise the noise. Yeah. So that's subtitle or caption. Browser zoom. Would you like to? Yeah. We need to review a design, for example. So that's when you use browser zoom and keyboard. I think it's better to unmute you, brother.
Hello.
Hi, Haider.
Yeah, so this poll made me realize just how dependent I am on for accessibility features. And we stopped at keyboard navigation. I actually depend heavily on keyboard navigation, especially when I process my emails. I don't move my hands away from the keyboard. I just rely on keyboard shortcuts instead of using the mouse to be able to process all my emails.
That's great. Yeah, that's great. That's brilliant. Have you selected the screen reader?
Screen reader was the only option that I didn't select.
Okay, got it. So thank you, Haider. Thanks so much. So there are two people selected screen reader. Could anyone just explain whether any one of these, who selected screen reader is blind? No? So I will assume this is a no. Yes, that's right. Probably developers using it for testing. That's most probably. So yeah. So it's obvious that most of us, like myself, when I just take my daughter for a walk or something on the, I don't know, what's called in Egypt, stroller, something like that. Here is the buggy. So it's when I use the buggy just to put my daughter in and move around, I will heavily just depend on ramps, dropped curbs. However, I'm not on a wheelchair, but in this situation, I need these tools. We use subtitles or captions even when we are not deaf, but when everyone is asleep and I need just to watch a movie or something and I need just to read. I don't want to just hear any voices. And at some point, it's a really long day of work like today, and I need to watch something, but I don't need to hear anything. So I will just mute everything and just rely on the caption. Browser zoom, it's based on your profession. So I assume that Heather is a designer or working on the software industry. So that's why he told us that he used browser zoom to review a design or something. But actually people with low vision, when they face that some words in really small font size, they need to zoom in, or people with low vision, honestly, they need to zoom in to see all of the text all of the time. Keyboard navigation, when people with broken arms, people with tremors, people with all of kind of disabilities, motor disability, when they cannot use their hands really normally, they use keyboard because they have one hand as well. Some woman with a child who is crying and she needs to hold them while doing her work, she has only one hand working. She can use the keyboard only. I would assume that she will not use the mouse in favor of the keyboard, but she will mainly use the keyboard. So it's really heavily relied on, honestly. Screen readers actually is used for people who are deaf, who are blind, who cannot see, they can only hear, and for people who are building accessible solutions just to test their work. And also for people like myself, at some point, I had my screen just smashed and I needed just to erase all of the data that I have on my laptop. So I relied, honestly, explicitly, I relied on the screen reader just to move all of my work to the external hard disk and then to erase everything. So that was me in one situation. Yes, it was really short, but it was really important to me. It was really crucial just to get my data outside this laptop, to move it away and to erase it, just, not for anyone to access it. But people who are blind, they are using screen readers all the time. So it's really important for them just to have your product compatible with them. So if anyone would like to provide any more examples, please do. I use it to read out website pages because at time, so that's Ala talked about using screen reader, I assume. I use it to read out website pages because at times it's more easier for me to understand Arabic and speech. That's brilliant. And this is another usage of screen reader for someone who is not blind. So I think it's really obvious now that when we do accessibility, or when we create accessibility, it's for everyone, not only for people who think that they will be the people that need our product to be accessible, which are the disabled, or the classic understanding of the disability or of disabled people. So thank you. Thanks for your contribution, guys. Let's move on. And actually, when it comes to this, it's really, obvious, something wrong with the presentation, but the question here, not a question, the information here was, why not for everyone? So why don't we, when we create something, when we build something, that we build it for everyone, not just specific group of people? So this is the idea. This is the idea of building digitally accessible solutions, products and services that you don't rely on a pop-up, an accessibility pop-up, which is really fake and really unuseful for people with disability, or just to build another version of your website or mobile app for people with specific type of accessibility, of disability. But actually, the main idea of the inclusive design is to build something, only one thing that is usable for everyone. I will just stop here a little bit, just for Dr. Zainab, just to talk to you about some examples. So please, Dr. Zainab, just join us.
Thank you very much, Ahmed, for enlightening us on all them little bits. It is an eye-opening area, especially for people who don't realize what they're using all the time, and all of a sudden, oh wow, this is really a game changer. So I'm just trying to locate one thing. Just give me 1 second. Okay. So what you see here is a classic case of universal design. What you see on the left is a watch that has 3 rows of buttons. Some of them are protruding and some of them are not. And a big buckle on the side, or 3 big buckles on the side. So that's supposed to be a watch that was designed for people who are blind. Basically because they read Braille, and those protruding buttons are how they read text on paper, and how it's written. But the issue is that this watch is not usable by somebody like myself. So the classic person who doesn't know how to read Braille would not be able to buy it. So it's very limited to the audience, to its audience. But when you look on the right side, you've got a watch that's designed to be accessible. How so? So what they did is make the time hourly slots protruding, and not put a glass covering on it so that people can touch it and see where it is. The ball on the outer rim and on the inside rim represent the hour and the minute. And that way they understand where, or somebody, myself or somebody who is blind, could either see or touch to know where the hour handles were. So I love that example and thought to share it with you. And this stuff only happens when you do think about everybody from the beginning. Had I started designing, for example, a watch without thinking of people who use the watch differently, I would not be able to create something that is universally designed. Ahmed, could we push to the next one, please? Excellent. So this example is about color blindness or color deficiencies. Some of us have issues from birth. Some of us have a degradation in the level of color that we see. That's considered one of the accessibility limitations or barriers for people who are using technology or looking at screens all day. You have people who have eye strain as well, are also classed under that group. And if I design websites or I design interfaces for those people, then how do I make sure that I'm not putting colors that colorblind people can't see? So that's another example. Next one.
I have a question here before I move on. How
Sure.
many people can read the number inside this, the circle on the right-hand side?
One.
No one?
Oh, 74. Great. So there's a huge science behind all of this color stuff, and your color cones in your eyes and which one triggers what information in your brain. So please take a look. It inspires me all the time. Can we move to the next slide, Ahmed, please?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. So signage is another issue when it comes to accessibility. Not everybody understands icons. It depends where you come from. It depends what you know. And if you're used to certain signage in certain parts of the world, you might not be used to them in other places. So there's certainly a huge area of universal design principles that you can think of when it comes to making icons, even whether it's stuff to put on your websites and apps, right? So for example, like the WC, I had no idea what that was, for example, when I first saw it moving to the US. So it takes an example, it takes a situation, and then you know it, and then you won't forget it. But for other people, especially the elderly who might not realize or not think about it and really need help to locate places, it might be an issue. Right, the language as well. So sometimes we find signage that's in certain languages, and it's very hard to translate, and not many people are aware that there are applications that can take a picture of a text and then translate it for them to make it easier and let them be more independent. And this is stuff we talk about in accessibility too. Hey there, I noticed arrows in Spain are the other way around for me. A down arrow means forward. I assumed they meant back behind me. Oh, cool. Yeah, and very interesting. So there is definitely a science behind design in different places around the world. Did you have anything to add, Ahmed?
No, nothing. I was just about to read Haider's comments. So yeah, thanks, Haider.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, let's move on. Yeah.
Right, so this is accessible gaming. Lots of universities around the world have done a lot of research. We have companies that have put out some of these devices. So for example, you see here the Xbox, or is it the Microsoft player that allows people who are blind or have issues with mobility, so physical disabilities, to interact with the game in different ways. And so you see a guy strapped into different things. He's got a neck brace on. He has something on the right side or left side of his head, like a big orange button. That's actually a button to do something within the game. So if he wanted to, like, for example, hit, he'd probably go and hit the button with his head, because that's something he can do physically to be able to interact. And accessibility is like that. It's providing services and solutions for people who cannot do something in a certain way so that they can do it and feel like they're included and not excluded from everything everyone else is doing. So I thought that was a classic example to share. The next one, Ahmed, please. All right, so on our poll, we asked if you used captions. So captions is one of the most important accessibility things, because we have so much data out there that's video. And this is an example of YouTube and what you can see when you click the CC thing on captions, and the text will come up, whether you're reading it in English or in a different language. And then on the right side, you see the transcription, which means for every minute or every second that you've said that sentence, it'll show up what you've said. And a lot of people rely on this big time, especially watching movies online and listening to lectures and things like that. And when it comes to, I think, percentages, if I'm not wrong, I was in a workshop earlier, and they were talking about how much percent do you think people on Facebook use captions? So I'm not going to say it, I'll let you guess, but that's something I learned today. What's the percentage of people using captions on video, which in another way means they mute the videos, they watch it while it's on mute? Any ideas? Any guesses?
Yeah, please guess. I always do this.
No guesses? There's no wrong guess, really, even if I'm listening to captions on. All right, perfect. So what's
why do you? Yeah.
So let's say then the percentage of people muting it and solely relying on the caption. That might be easier. 50. I'm guessing 80 plus. Definitely. So Heather hit it spot on. So it is 80 plus. It's actually 85%. For YouTube, it was a bit lower. So it's around 75% of people who watch YouTube have the captions turned on at the same time. So that's food for thought. Can we move to the next slide, please? So all tech, including websites, have to be barrier-free, basically. As a priority, it's for people with disabilities who are not able to, for example, see or read or hear the content. And overall, like the case we did earlier on, everyone else benefits. So your interaction with technology basically improves and is enhanced so much more when it's accessible. Next slide, Ahmed. Thank you. So how do people who have these disabilities interact with technology? So if you have blindness or low vision, then you're most likely going to use a screen reader. And people with a low vision, some of them are fine with using screen magnifiers, and you have a lot of different platforms like Windows and Mac that provide zoom magnification very easily within the interface. So you can, it's as easy as turning on a shortcut and having the screen magnified for you in certain places. If you're deaf, then what do you use? So we've mentioned closed captions as a prime example. When it comes to live events, they rely also on sign language translation because a lot of the deaf population have a weakness when it comes to language, especially in our region of the world. Some of them don't read or write, and sign language can be the only way to reach them. In terms of mobility, if I have an issue with my hands and I'm not able to type, then what do I do? Let's say I don't know, any example. I'm not able to use my hands today. I'm going to just imagine I can't use them. So the only way I can really interact with my technology is going to be through my mouth, which is speaking. And there's a lot of different technologies out there that will change speech to text or listen to command and navigate and help you as a person navigate through the website and technology. Even wearing gloves, definitely, yeah. So if you're wearing gloves, let's say even in a healthcare setting, it might be an issue if I'm using touchscreen and things like that, definitely an issue. Mobility also have on-screen keyboards. Is one way they use. So there's lots of different devices that can be used, like a sip and puff. There's like a stick where I can put it in my mouth, and let's say this is for people who can't use their hands. And then they use that stick to touch the buttons on the screen and type what they want. And that one, and there's lots of different scenarios and examples, and I won't go into detail. But technology is advancing pretty much to adapt to all of these. And then when you have cognitive disabilities or the spectrum across cognitive disabilities and learning disabilities, you have readability. Sometimes it's very hard to read. You have examples of people with dyslexia who can't read as easy as you and I. How does technology adapt to those people? How can I, for example, zoom in, change the color of the words that's being read, follow along with them to help them be able to read it easier. And again, lots of technologies exist for that. And next screen. Any questions before we go on with this? Anyone who wants to talk, please raise your hand. I think you should be able to unmute yourself. Yep, you should be able to. So please ask away if you need to, or type. So why do you think accessibility is important? Work with kids with personal learning. I work with kids with dyslexia and I help them create personal learning spaces with assistive technology. Perfect. Perfect. And it's so important to know that every child is different, and every person, whether they're all dyslexic, everyone has a preference. And there's certainly, definitely lots of different assistive technologies for each case that will be adaptable. So I think we can move over from this slide, because the barriers sort of highlight the importance of having accessibility. So the first one we have is audio content. As I showed you the YouTube channel a little bit earlier, audio content on our website, such as videos with voices and sounds without captions or transcripts. So let's clarify what a caption is and a transcript is. The caption was what comes up. So what you see, if you've activated the closed captioning on this Zoom, you're seeing the text come up as I'm speaking. The transcript is the complete set of text of what's been happening so far, that's timestamped as well, so that I can go back if I wanted to a recording and know exactly when the person said such and such. So a deaf person cannot understand or know what is conveyed if I don't provide a caption or a transcript. And we can go a step further after that as well. So we have, for example, people who watch movies. And that's the case for the blind as well, not just that one. So if I'm watching a movie and I'm blind, then I could probably hear what's happening, but I can't really visualize the situation. So let's say there's a boy running across a field and kicks a ball, right? But what they're saying in audio is something totally different. Somebody talking about the boy, not about what he's doing. That type of information we call audio descriptions, which is describing what is in that situation for a person who doesn't know or doesn't realize what's happening. And I have an example that we could probably listen to a little bit later that explains that. I hope I got it across well. Can we move to the next slide, Ahmed, please?
Yep.
Complex navigation. So this is really critical when it comes to layouts in a website, let's say, which can be difficult to understand. Some people like to think that they're innovative by designing their own way or suggesting different approaches to a website's flow. We need to really consider that that is sometimes very difficult and it's cognitively heavy on a lot of people, not just those with disabilities that are cognitive or learning disabilities. Even the likes of me, if I go into a website that's really takes time, I'll probably give up in the first few seconds and be like, okay, well, I'm sure there's another solution and look somewhere else. So complex navigation is a big barrier for people who try to go into it. And if that navigation is also inaccessible, so it doesn't allow a person with a screen reader to navigate through it and doesn't tell them where they are on the website, that makes it even harder.
Yeah, I'd like to add as well, not only when it's not accessible, not only it will affect people with cognitive and visual disabilities, it will also affect people with motor disabilities, because when it comes to using a keyboard, for example, people need to know where is the focus now, how to navigate to the next page, how to use the whole navigation for using only the keyboard. So it's when it comes to the navigation specifically and all of the interactive elements across the page, it's really important for us just to make sure that it is accessible for everyone, not just because some designers just design pages that only looks nice, but when it comes to the accessibility and the usability, it's really challenging for many people to use our website, and therefore they might be just drop off and leave our website to another one that is less visually expensive, but it's rather it's more accessible or usable for them. So yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Ahmed.
Thank you
for sharing. Yeah, can we move to the next slide while you're there?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, okay, they're the same, so forgive me. All right, so websites, web browsers, and authoring tools that do not provide full keyboard support.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so definitely people with mobility issues who rely on full keyboard support, similar to Haider just now, says that that's mainly his preference. As people who have visual issues, limitations, blindness, may not be able to access any or all of the content if it's not accessible by full keyboard. So a simple example is if you're a developer here or a designer and have a prototype or your own website, then go and tab through it. You just use the tab button and see if you can get to every part of your page and to the and be able to at least go to those to other pages if they're important. Full keyboard support involves being able to go through things like it's carousels or a form and being able to go back and forth, up and down to fill a form and things like that. Next slide, please. Images, infographics, controls, and other structural elements that do not have equivalent text alternatives. So this is a classic case for blind people or people who have low vision and are relying on screen readers to read out what's on the page to them. What happens when I turn on a screen reader and go through a page? Let's say I have a banner and my screen reader goes through the page, and we'll give you an example of a screen reader going through the page. I'll pull up, remind me to pull up the example. So if there was an image there of the banner and it had content, let's say, even if it was text, a screen reader was going through it, it will only, if I haven't coded it in the right way, then it will only tell the screen reader that it's an image or a figure of some kind. It won't tell them what's within the image. And if it's very important and critical for my website to have that information known for a user, then I need to relay it in a different way other than just visual. And by doing that, I add certain tags to the code to allow them and add a description. Let's say this image is of a person trying to wear shoes, right? If I'm on a commerce website and I want to sell shoes, for example, and if there's a certain color or setting that's important to your business, then you want to add that too.
I think, yeah, I think, no, I think that there is no more examples for barriers and how people suffer from. But it's time now. We were 5 minutes early before the questions and answers. So if now we can use this time as well. If you guys just can share with us your experience, your previous struggles, a situation that you know about someone with permanent disability that they suffer from. So please share this with us. And also, if you have any questions, just please, we are more than happy to answer them.
We'd like also people who are working in the space, like Samoon, to talk to us a little bit more about your assistive technologies that you use. Have you found them useful? Do you have any suggestions or things to keep in mind, lessons to learn? I guess this is a nice place to do it.
Oh, and by the way, if you guys, if anyone just want to share this with in Arabic, and we can translate it this for the rest of the audience, we are more than happy to do this as well.
Perfect. I'm gonna stop the recording if that's the case, to allow people to probably talk.
Sure.